Is no restart.
Big move in Bitcoin then, in contrast to all the notes I wrote pre-show, which were telling me that this was going to put Bitcoin under pressure.
The narrative that perhaps this launch of these political meme coins will sap flows from Bitcoin is showing us that it's really not the case this morning. If anything, it's just accelerated the momentum and the excitement around cryptocurrency under another Trump administration.
Hi, Dewald. What is all this FOMO about? Should I buy Bitcoin now?
Are you smoking your socks? You should rather watch my show. You should rather watch my show.
All right, legends, welcome to another live stream here on a public holiday. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it is still an international public holiday in most countries. And here we are trying to analyze the price of Bitcoin. And I see a lot of altcoins are popping out. It's breaking out. There's excitement in the air. And here comes Dewald, a little bit of a bearish peanut in the packet. Right, legends, there's a couple of scenarios that I would like to discuss. I do not trust, okay, I have to be honest, from a technical perspective, I do not trust the pump at the moment here to the upside unless, and I will discuss the unless that needs to happen for me to flip bullish. Right, for the moment, even with this pump here to the upside, and you know, some people will argue, well, yeah, Dewald, yes, I mean, wow, the pump happened with some nice volume here to the upside, right? We have finally broken the range. We are outside of the range. We've been chopping inside here. We broke out, and now we want to just, you know, we need to leave the station. Well, legends, you know, it's about the smaller time frames. It's the smaller time frames that, you know, it's painting a little bit of a different picture, right? Even with this pump here to the upside, it's painting a little bit of a different picture. There is a bullish case scenario. I will discuss that in a moment, and there's some very interesting levels that I'm keeping an eye on, and also exactly why did we get rejected over here. I will go and explain to everyone why did price stop exactly where it stopped right now. Okay, why are we getting a rejection at the moment? Why did price stop? Right? Are we going to continue momentum here to the upside, or are we due for a little bit of a retracement? Maybe find support above where we broke out for continuation, or are we going to come and smack back down inside of this zone? Remember, legends, smash up that like button on your way in if you haven't done so already. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? This is where we do pure technical analysis. Very interesting scenarios that I would like to discuss today. I hope you've all had a beautiful Easter weekend for those of you that do celebrate Easter. And, okay, I had my bunny last night. My bunny was absolutely amazing. I had my chocolate bunny last night. It was absolutely amazing. Now today, okay, with all the chocolates that I've eaten over the weekend, I'm just taking a little bit of a break, right? Back onto the healthy eating plan. I've got my coffee ready. I've got my water ready. Legends, I hope you guys are ready for what I'm about to share over here. And let's get the party on the road. BTC always visits the crime scene. Very interesting, Frank. BTC always visit the crime scene. Yes, yes, yes. Dewald, I sure did say when you said bye-bye. Bye-bye. Now I'm in profit and will take profit when it retests the low. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Right. Good morning, brother. Do you have any socks left? Yeah, well, you might be thinking that I'm smoking my socks here at the moment because, you know, as per the thumbnail, I don't trust this pump here to the upside. The pump is happening when the markets are closed. I don't like breakouts, okay? I do not trust breakouts when they happen when the markets are closed. Often, very often, what happens is when you get aggressive momentum like this to the upside and the markets open a little bit later today, right, and tomorrow, the price likes to retrace the entire move. Okay? Can it be a sustained breakout here to the upside? Definitely a possibility, but I will share with you what has to happen. For this pump to sustain itself and to continue momentum to the upside, very important that the price does the following, which I want to discuss. So, legends, let's zoom in here onto the 4-hour time frame. Pope passed away. He got my PCU mining wires area, had a great Easter. Right, legends, let's focus here on the price of Bitcoin. Okay, so we all know this little bit of a trend that has broken out, where we have broken out from the trend. So, you know, I don't just want to be bearish. Is there potential for higher momentum? Of course, the price of Bitcoin is here to surprise us. On the larger time frame, one could argue that this was an impulse, this was a long sideways correction, and now we're just continuing momentum here to the upside. Beautiful. If you played the breakout, make sure to take profits as price moves here to the upside. And right, is this the moment? We're just going to continue momentum here to the upside until we start hitting major resistance here at $96,000. I am not too convinced just as yet, legends. And right, there's a possibility. So if I put on my bullish hat, is to say, well, okay, we have broken trend. Bam. Okay, we already had a long sideways correction. Remember, a correction does not always have to go deep. It is the timing of the correction that is the most important factor. After impulse, you want to see either a long sideways correction, which is now done, or you want to see that deep corrective structure that makes a higher low and it continues to the upside. But one of the two is perfectly fine. And in this instance, we got a long sideways corrective structure. And what you would like to see is for price to find its feet and continue momentum here to the upside until we start hitting some major resistance levels to the upside. So if you are in a long from lower levels, where did I put that? Here we go. I have drawn up some simple support and resistance boxes to the upside. Okay, so looking at the support and resistance boxes here, the first resistance area of major resistance is here at around about $89,000-$90,000. So you would expect price to stay above the range. Very important. It's now broken out. It needs to stay above the range. If price is going to get acceptance back inside of the range, it's most likely going to come back all the way to the bottom of this range. So in a pullback, what you would like to see is for price, okay, maybe it continues from where it is right now. And this is a very interesting zone that I will be watching for a potential rejection. Okay, for the bulls, you want price to smash and cut through this level like a hot knife through butter. And you want it to find support, climbing the ladders to the upside. Okay, climbing the ladders to the upside. Continuing basically the bull market here to the upside. The biggest area, the strongest area of resistance we have here to the upside is this little bad boy here at $97,000. This is the strongest area of resistance that we have to the upside. Are we going to make a lower high and then the price rolls back down? Okay, also that's why it's important to pay yourself on the way up. Right, legends, that is the bullish case scenario. Okay, we've broken trend. We've had the long sideways corrective structure, and now we have pierced the level. We have broken out from the consolidation area. So maybe we come back for a retest. You do not want to lose that area, which becomes a great buying opportunity for momentum to continue here to the upside until we hit this resistance. When I switch on my weekly levels, Okay, we also have a weekly point of control inside of this resistance box over here. Weekly point of control. Also, when I take a Fibonacci from this little pivot over here to the lows that we've created, it has more or less alignment also with the 786 of this entire structure. 786 resistance zone, weekly point of control, 786. It seems like the most logical level for a potential rejection if the momentum is going to sustain itself here to the upside. Okay, so for those of you that are in a long, well, that now becomes a very interesting profit taking area. Okay, or an opportunity to look for shorts. Right, now, legends, what I want to do now is zoom into the smaller time frames. And I want to share with everyone why I think potentially, okay, we are still going to get maybe a larger correction here to the downside before we continue momentum here to the upside. And what needs to happen for the bulls to stay in control. Okay, hi. But you always visit the crowd. Yes, I've gone through that. Some interesting comments. I will go through the comments in a moment. In a moment. When gold stops going nuts, BTC may start its move like last year, August. Yes, I mean, all the love and attention is still going into gold. And usually, you know, when there's problems in the land, in the stock markets, it's usually where gold finds strength. So the fact that gold is making all-time highs and it's rampaging to the upside tells you that risk on assets is supposed to bleed to the downside. And here we have Bitcoin that's breaking up, not down, up. Risk on assets is supposed to go down when Bitcoin finds strength, when gold finds strength, because gold is a safe haven. When there's crap in the world, people buy gold. Okay, so legends now. Okay, this is now where it becomes interesting. Let me switch off these levels and let's go and focus on this local structure that we have built here to the upside. Okay, first thing is I want to close this and let's look at this structure. Let's switch off the trends. Okay, so from a bullish perspective, okay, we have this massive steep trend running here to the upside. Okay, if you zoom into the smaller time frames like the 5-minute time frame, it actually looks like a pretty decent trend line. So for the bulls, if we start getting a rejection here to the downside, the value area high or the high of this range needs to hold as support. If, you know, also bounce on the horizontal support from a trend line perspective, in confluence with the breakout, the scene of the crime that someone has referred to so beautifully over here. You want price to hold this level, and then that becomes a longing opportunity for momentum back to the upside. You do not want, okay, for the bulls, you do not want price to get acceptance back inside this range. From a range trading perspective, if price had to get acceptance back inside the range, starting to close 1 hour, let's say 1 hour high time frame candles back below, you increase the probabilities of coming back to the bottom. And now you are range bound again, and that becomes a deviation outside of the range, a liquidity grab, if you will. If you look at the liquidity heat map, let me put my face on the other side. Oops, here we go. Let me just do this. Right, if you look at the liquidity heat map, you can see that we have grabbed most of the liquidity above this high. Right, all of that liquidity has been smashed and grabbed here to the upside. So it seems that the damage, most of the damage has now been done to the upside, but there's still a massive amount of liquidity to the downside. Okay. But we still have liquidity to the upside, so you can't really trade based on liquidity. But what I do acknowledge is that most of the damage has been done to the upside. Right, so for the bulls to continue grabbing liquidity to the upside, they need to hold this high. Okay, they need to hold $85,700. This is the zone that needs to hold. You do not want price to get acceptance back inside the range. Right, for bullish momentum to continue here to the upside. Okay, now, legends. You cannot, okay, you cannot just focus on this little structure over here. in order to determine where the structure is going to go, you have to consider the entire structure as an entirety. Okay, you cannot just focus on this little structure. You can focus on this little structure from a day trading perspective by all means. Okay, let me put my face back to the site where it belongs. There we go. Right. So, legends, when I look at this structure, this is where I have a couple of concerns. I have discussed the bullish case scenario. So, as a technical trader, I have to look at, well, what if price continues? Okay, but I also have to look at the entire structure to say that, well, what is the probability, looking at the entire structure, that price is just going to continue here to the upside, even with a beautiful retest and continuation. Right, so legends, I have a couple of scenarios mapped out. Okay, the only bullish structure that makes sense to me from an Elliott wave perspective is this one. Right, you have formed 5 waves to the upside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. 5-wave impulse. We've had a long corrective structure here to the side, to the side that ended over here. Okay, where we formed a ABC, ABC in an X. Right, well, you have an ABC and W, you have an ABC and X, and now you've formed an A, B, C, D, E in a Y. Basically, you ended the corrective structure in a triangle. This was a structure that was identified by Andy. For all of you that follow Andy as well, this is one of the bullish structures that Andy also spoke about. Right, for momentum to continue to the upside after the correction has ended, you have to build a bullish impulsive structure to the upside for momentum to sustain itself to the upside. And the only way that I can count it is, let me zoom into the 15-minute time frame. Okay, and then we can go through the bearish counts over here. Is a 1 in a 5-wave structure. You have now formed a 1. All of this is a W, X, Y, ABC, however you want to count it, a 3-wave structure that completed wave 2. 1, 2, and this is now the 3rd wave here to the upside. Nice green volume kicking in, and what you would now expect is for a 4th wave that finds support above, right? And then we make one more high. And remember, after an impulsive structure, when you have formed a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this structure has to correct itself in an ABC. So maybe, you know, everyone longing like crazy monkeys over here. Okay, right? Like crazy people over here. They get one more high and then it comes back down. You do not want price to get acceptance back inside the structure. So you could revisit this area twice before you get the explosion to the upside. Right. Remember to smash up that like button. For all of you that's just joined the live stream and you forgot to smash up that like button, remember to do so. Legends, this is the only bullish count that I can come up with at the moment. Okay, a couple of, one problem. Okay, one problem with this structure over here. If I zoom into, let's go to the 10-minute time frame. It just has to be said, okay, this one is incredibly short. It's very short in time compared to the corrective structure. Time is never in invalidation, but it significantly impacts the probabilities. I do not want to see a 1 like this. And a corrective structure that took forever. So from a timing perspective, I don't even think I have a level for that. If I measure it from the start of the impulse to the end of the impulse, okay, just to show everyone over here, my maximum level that I have over here is the 7, right? But I could actually end it here at the 5. Because usually when I look at an impulsive structure to the upside and it starts getting to the 4 extension, I start looking at something else. I invalidate. Now you can see 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You know, it's almost 20. This corrective structure is almost 20 times longer than your impulse. which significantly reduces the probabilities. Okay, it's not an invalidation, but it significantly reduces the probabilities that this is going to turn out to be a nice little bullish structure here to the upside that is going to hit $95,000, $100,000. Okay, you have to zoom into this. Well, for me, it's important to zoom into the smaller time frames to see that, well, do the bulls have a chance for higher momentum? And the structure looks incredibly messy from a bullish continuation perspective. Okay. The only way, legends, the only way, so, you know, I have to play what if scenarios with myself, is that for whatever reason, let's say that the correction ended over here for this entire move. Here's your fifth wave, and the entire correction ended over here. Then you need to look at this little structure. So if I've counted it correctly, maybe I missed something, you know, I have to play that devil's advocate with myself, is to say that, Dewald, you are struggling to count this corrective structure. What if somehow there was a correction inside of here that actually ended over here? And this is now the start of impulses back to the upside. Okay. Right now, point taken. Point taken, right? So what you would like to see for the bulls is you have this, ladies and gentlemen, you have the grind to the downside, okay, where everything started. This is where the bullish momentum started. Then you have this pump to the upside, right, with high volume, and now you expect the grind to the upside. Remember, when I speak about 1, 2, 1, 2, maybe another 1, 2, you get your 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. This is a bullish structure, but the structure has to correct itself. Okay, so if you have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, you expect a 3 explosive move, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Right, 3 peaks, 3 peaks. Okay, then the structure has to correct itself. ABC, WXY, but in a 3-wave manner. It needs to start correcting itself, and then it needs to continue. It needs to create a higher low. Right, so this is now what I'm looking at, legends, is to say, well, I can see the grind to the downside. Okay, so without going into too much detail in counting all these waves, 1, 2, maybe there's another 1, 2, maybe there's another 1, 2, but you now have the grind to the downside, and you're now starting a grind to the upside. So it looks like this impulsive structure is coming to an end. It would be very strange to just see a God candle motoring here to the upside based on this and this, right? So if price is going to reject and fall now, so this structure is now starting to correct itself, okay? Then it becomes interesting to say that, okay, now I'm going to take my Fibonacci levels from the low of the structure to the high. This is now the highest point that we have now based on the information that we have available. If we make another high, so maybe it finds support, it goes and it makes another high, I will just drag my fib to the new high. But for now, this is the pivot that we have at the moment, right? For this structure to remain bullish, maximum target is the 786. If this is going to form a 1, 2, and it's going to explode in a third wave here to the upside, your maximum target is the 786, but it can be the 382, it can be the 50%, and it can be the 618, right? But this is your zone. This is your zone where price needs to find support. I don't particularly like these two levels because you're getting acceptance back below the range that we've just broken out. So ideally, maximum target should be 50% Fibonacci, which is at $85,841. And then you want to see an explosion back to the upside. Okay. If price is going to get acceptance back inside here and starts tapping the 618 levels, 786 levels, I mean, it needs to happen fast, right? You want to see a wick left behind. Price needs to dip below, grab the liquidity, start trading above. That will look good, right? For continuation to the upside. But this becomes very dangerous territory for the price of Bitcoin. You have acceptance back inside the range. So you want ideally your 50% Fibonacci to hold for the bulls. So a very interesting level that I will be paying attention to. If you have attempted a short in this zone, okay, also it becomes a very interesting profit taking area. Right. So that is my what if scenario, legends. That is my what if scenario. Okay, if I've counted the corrective structure incorrectly, and this is the start of impulses to the upside. 1, 2, okay, forget about this. Let me switch this off. Okay, this needs to become your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back to the upside. Okay, and then the most obvious area of resistance to the upside is that weekly naked point of control that I have pointed out. Okay, so if this structure is going to find its legs and it's going to build a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, this is the zone that I will be keeping an eye on a potential rejection and also a profit taking area from this long. $90,000, give or take. Let's just call it a round number of $90,000. Right, legends, remember, if you'd like to come and trade with me, the links for the best deals on these exchanges are always down in the description. I've got weeks, 20% cash back for the money that you deposit in your features account. So if you deposit $1,000, you get $200 extra to trade with for Mohala for free. You deposit $2,000, you get $400 to trade with. Right, also 25% discount on your trading fees, and you also have that opportunity by registering with this link to go and win a Ferrari. The more you trade, the more volume you move, you get entries to go and win a nice little Ferrari over here. Okay, it's also your way to support the channel and it costs you nothing extra. Right, by using the links down in the description, you qualify for the best sign-up bonuses and deals that I can organize with these exchanges. Okay. Legends, let's get back here into the meat and potatoes. Let me share with everyone why I think that there is a higher chance to fall down. Okay, I have discussed the bullish case scenarios and what we need to look out for bullish momentum to continue. I think it would be very strange for me, for price, to find support inside of this zone and just poof, right? It would be, technically it would be very strange, but if price for some reason does not even come down here and it just bounces here to the upside, it's still a very interesting rejection zone over here. And I will explain why this zone is so interesting to the upside when I now take you through the bearish case scenarios as well. Right, legends, remember to smash up that like button. Now, I want to go back onto the 1 hour time frame. Dewald, why are you now the only bearish peanut in the packet? Okay. Trust this pump? I don't trust this pump just as yet. Okay, so let me take this out. Legends, I have to consider the entire structure. The entire structure to confirm if momentum is going to continue to the upside. I have explained to everyone if I have counted this incorrectly and this is the end of the correction and we're now starting to build impulses, what needs to happen? Okay, now there's a couple of other scenarios that I'm also looking at. Okay, what if, right? So I can even put this 5 over here and I can put the A over there. Legends, this corrective structure, I'm not going to lie, is a very difficult, complex corrective structure. But I need to try and make sense of it to confirm, well, can momentum still continue to the upside? So if this was the end of the impulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this was the end, and you have a 3-wave structure in an A wave, all of this, legends, is a complete mess. And usually when it's a mess, it doesn't make sense. It's either an X wave or a B wave. Okay, so if I count this in a 3-wave structure, okay, a 3-wave structure. Oh, sorry, a 3-wave structure. Let me just redo that. Right, legends, it could be that this is the A. You have a 3-wave structure in a B that's now getting rejected inside B flat target zone, the most common zone to get a B flat rejection, and we're now going to start building impulses to the downside in a B, C. this count makes sense to me. Okay? Then trying to speculate, the low is in, I can't make sense of the corrective structure. It must just continue here to the upside. Right? So based on this count, there is still a scenario where the structure still remains bullish. It's still a 5-wave impulse. You are still going to create a higher low. Then you are going to continue to the upside. This also supports that what if all of this noise that happened while the markets was closed actually turns out to be a massive fake out and a liquidity grab to the upside, and then we go down, we grab the liquidity below, and then we move back to the upside. The price action will still be above the trend on the 4-hour time frame that we've broken out from. Okay, definitely a very interesting scenario. I think it's also very interesting that price for the B flat is rejecting inside of B flat targets. This does count beautifully as a 3-wave structure in an A. This looks nicely as a 3-wave structure in a B. A B wave is always a 3-wave structure, and you're now going to start impulses back to the downside to go and complete your C wave. So something that we need to keep in mind, right? If you trust the breakout, just know that this could still be part of a larger corrective structure that comes down lower. The one thing that I'm keeping in the back of my mind is that if I look at this structure from the low to the high, okay, that we formed over here, or even this high, legends, you can even move this up. I've even tried to say, well, what if this was the high? What if that was the high? And you just move your 5th wave over there. It's still an A, 3-wave B, and a C to the downside. It counts exactly the same, right? The structure still makes sense, even if I count it from this little pivot. Okay. Drag that across. Okay. It is very strange for an impulsive structure to find its feet at such a shallow FIB retracement. It is a very rare target, and I have personally only seen a 1, 2, so ABC, you create your 2 over here. Okay, so you have an impulse and a 1, 2, and now we're going up for a 3rd wave. Bullish, right? Very shallow retracement at the 0.236. I have only seen it happen twice, and in both scenarios that I've seen it happen, this was an impulsive structure and not a contracting diagonal. It was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. ABC, short, shallow, and then it continues. But this was an impulsive structure, not a contracting diagonal. Right, so can it happen? Yes. Is it a high probability? No. Right, so this is one structure that I'm looking at, legends. And, okay, remember, we have gone through the bullish case scenarios as well. I am just trying to show you all sides of the coin, okay? For those of you that's now turned extremely bullish over here, I just want to show everyone that there is still a potential for lower levels, right? When then the 382 becomes a very interesting target. The 50% becomes a very interesting target, and even the 618 together with this weekly level becomes very interesting targets. Okay, because you could have a deeper corrective structure. Now you're getting the deepness and the length in the corrective structure, where this entire impulse is correcting itself and then it finds its feet back to the upside. This, ladies and gentlemen, is still a bullish structure when you count this as a 5, but all of this is part of a larger corrective structure still to the downside. You still expect a higher low to form compared to this low, and for momentum to continue back to the upside. Right, hope that makes sense. Okay, let's switch off the scenario. Right, this is just a different way of counting the structure over here, legends. Exactly the same result, I've just counted it differently. You still have your 5-wave impulse, but I'm counting it as a W that formed an ABC in a W. This was an A, B, C in an X, and now we're going to form an ABC to the downside to complete a C wave. So I'm counting the corrective structure slightly different to see if I get to the same answer. And yes, I get to the same answer. So in this scenario, you also want price to form a higher low for continuation back to the upside. But what I'm trying to show everyone here is that regardless of how I count the structure, I still get a lower target. I don't see continuation. Okay, and that is if I'm counting the structure the way that I'm supposed to be counting a corrective structure. It is, I am struggling, really struggling, and maybe, you know, I will spend some more time and maybe see some other Elliotticians in terms of how they are counting the structure. I am really struggling from an Elliott wave perspective to count that the corrective structure has come to an end over here. But I have highlighted the bullish case scenarios from a what-if perspective. What if that is the low and I just cannot make sense of the structure and we do continue to the upside, what you need to look out for. Okay. Right, legends. So counted the corrective structure a little bit differently, but I get to the same answer. Right? Now. And by the way, here was a short position that I actually highlighted to our Legends Pro community this morning. And do I have another scenario? There is another scenario, but I think I'm going to have to draw this scenario up fresh. Yeah, it's this one over here. So let me clean up the chart. Let me take out the weekly levels. Now the most bearish case scenario, legends. What if there is a scenario where we do not form a higher low and continue? What if there's a scenario that claims the lows? Okay, can you guys see how extreme I go? I have the most bullish case scenario. I have a bearish / still bullish case scenario where you form the higher low. And then there's a scenario that could take the lows. And this is as follow. You have formed an ABC, A, B, C, and a W. You have a X, complex corrective structure here to the downside, maybe ABC here to the downside, and now you have formed another A, okay, B, C to the upside to complete a Y wave, and it looks like this, simple, right? WXY. What is interesting about the scenario is that if I can measure this target, okay, this target has a measurement. Very interesting where we got rejected there at the moment. If I take a trend-based FIP, okay, you take it from the low of the structure to the high of W to the low of X. You drag it across and now you have Y wave targets. I reverse it and bang, look at where we're getting rejected at the 1-to-1 extension. Okay, so I'm basically counting this as an A, B, C. And remember, a C wave is a 5-wave structure. This little bad boy over here is a 5-wave structure. If I go into the 5-minute time frame, well, this looks like a 5-wave structure that is forming over here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, and it's going to start correcting itself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a Y wave target. It is a C wave target, and this is currently where the price is struggling at the moment. So the bad thing, okay, about this WXY, potential WXY structure here to the upside, although it is rejecting at the 1-to-1 extension, if by some miracle we get another bounce to the upside, the 1.236 at $89,673 is also a Y wave target. Very common Y wave target, very common Y wave target. That Y wave target to the upside also has confluence with a weekly point of control. So this is why this is still such an interesting zone to look for shorts. Well, and even this one over here. Right, so if price continues to the upside, definitely an area where I will still be paying attention to. Okay, I am currently in a short. Over here, my position is already protected because I went through the scalping scenarios this morning with our Legends Pro community and I told them exactly what to look out for. You know, swing failure from the double or from the tops to the upside. Right, legends. Now, unfortunately, if this is going to be a WXY, it has an increased probability of taking the lows again. Luckily, okay, maybe luckily, if I take, because there has to be a relationship between all the waves. So let me clean up the weekly levels over here. Right, let me take this Fibonacci out the way. If I measure from a timing perspective, the start of this impulse to the end of W, okay, and now I want to, so what I'm trying to measure here is how long did it take W to form? And how long is it taking Y to form over here? You can see it's getting into very dangerous territory from a timing perspective. Ideally, you want the Y wave to finish inside this zone, and it's already overextending itself over here. So time, like I've said, is never an invalidation, but it does impact probabilities. So from a probability perspective, because it's been so long for this Y wave, perhaps the bullish case scenarios are still going to play out where it forms the higher low and then continue because of how long the Y wave is taking. Okay. From a timing perspective, measuring the bullish structures, they are still in balance. Okay, so it gives slightly more bullish, more higher probability for the bullish case scenario where you form a higher low over here and continuation, and this ended up as a 5-wave structure here and not a WXY. Okay, right, legends, those are the levels. Okay, from a simplicity perspective, let's take out all of these things that I have just counted over here. From a simplicity perspective, trend-based fibs are trend-based fibs at the end of the day. Okay, pay attention to these levels, right? We are now currently getting rejected at the 1-to-1 extension. Okay, if you wanted to know, well, why did price stop here? Well, there's your answer. Okay. Also, if you want to know why price stopped here, well, if this is an A, B, C, okay, we have stopped inside of B flat targets. The B flat targets can be measured when I zoom into this little structure. Okay, where do I still have it here? There we go. So let me just take this one out the way. Okay, you take your fib from the high to the low, you reverse it, and this is now where price is at the moment. Right, legends, let me go through some comments, hear what everyone is saying, okay, because I see I got another, oh, no, I didn't. Right, come on, Dewald, fake pump to 200K. I don't know, legends. I mean, looking at this structure, okay, I really struggle to see the bullishness in the structure from here. If price falls down, then I will say, okay, this looks interesting for the structure to continue. But to start the impulse from here, I don't know. From a structural perspective, it doesn't make sense. Okay, there we get the unlike now, right? Every live stream, there's someone that unlikes the live stream. Right. I think maybe it's people that want bullish momentum to continue. They don't like because I'm being bearish, and then they unlike the live stream. Okay, not sure why people do that. Anyways, legends, you know, for me as a technical analyst, I have to look at all scenarios. I need to look at all scenarios because if I'm playing a short over here and price falls all the way here to the bottom, just imagine this, price falls all the way here to the bottom. You know, I want to show you how I played the short and why we ended up at the bottom. Right, I see the unlikes are piling in over here at the moment. Right, legends. Anyways, you know, technical analysis is technical analysis at the end of the day. So for the bulls, regardless, legends, regardless of how I counted this structure, for the bulls, and this is why the larger time frame is important. Okay. For the bulls, regardless of how I counted the structure from an Elliott wave perspective, you've broken trend. You've consolidated, and you don't want to get acceptance back inside the range. So if price comes back down, that becomes a buying opportunity for continuation to the upside. As simple as that, right? You need to find support by the 50% Fibonacci. If I zoom into the structure, you take your fib from the low to the high, and if price is going to continue to fall here to the downside, you want your 50% Fibonacci to hold. You do not want price to get acceptance back inside the range. That increases the probabilities of coming to the bottom of the range. Right, but 50% becomes, okay, let me just do this on the 5-minute time frame. So for the bulls, I have to cater for both the bulls and the bears, right, legends? If the bulls do not like what I'm saying over here and you believe that momentum is going to continue to the upside, well, here's a buying opportunity for you. If price can continue to grind here to the downside, okay, look at this beautiful trend, 50%, I will definitely be looking for a long opportunity, make no mistake. Even if all my Elliott wave scenarios are telling me it looks like it's still going down lower, I can tell you guys now, this is still a very interesting zone for me to pay attention to. If I see what I like over here, we get the bounce, okay, we don't lose the 50% Fibonacci, maybe there's a nice little trend that's forming over here, you don't know what to do over here, you can wait for the breakout. Put your stop below the low, you're targeting the highs and higher levels. Right, simple as that. Okay, let's continue. Right, remember to smash up that like. I agree, woke up and short everything. Even dislikes help the algorithm. I'm not sure if dislikes help the algorithm, okay, but I always have some people that dislike the content that I'm providing over here, and I've specifically noticed that if price is aggressively falling to the downside, and I'm talking about a bullish case scenario, people dislike the stream. If price is continuously rampaging like it's breaking out now here at the moment, and I'm talking about a bearish case scenario, people dislike the stream. People, you know, I don't know, want hopium, I suppose, okay? Maybe they want me to say, if we get here, you 100x your entire portfolio and you don't look back. And then what if this happens? I can't do that. I can't do that. Right. Anyways, legends, please don't get affected by people only wanting to hear bullish bullshit. Yes, we are here for your great analysis. Thanks, Rade. I appreciate that, you know, and as a technical analyst, the best thing that you can do is always to have a bullish and a bearish case scenario. And you need to have levels to the upside and you need to have levels to the downside for potential shorts and for potential longs. Because if you're only looking in one direction, you might miss trades. Okay, I can tell you guys now, people only looking at bullish continuation here to the upside, right? The only level that they most probably watching is this. Oh, I can't wait for price to get there. I'm going to long like a crazy person when price gets there. Price gets there, okay, it doesn't bounce. It maybe makes a small bounce, it gives them some hopium, and it falls back down. And then it gets the bounce over here. But you were so focused on bullish continuation that you did not pay attention to a larger corrective structure to the downside, which has confluence with some levels to the downside. And then you miss this long. Okay. Right. Or you miss the short over here with the potential to come and claim the lows. So I can tell you guys now, if I'm playing a short over here, I'm definitely paying myself on the way down as you're hitting support to the downside. But I will definitely be leaving some of my position open for lower levels. Right. People want unicorns farting rainbows. Good luck and be careful. Gidon Lama, yes. I mean, you know, it's, you know, legends, we need to accept that this pump here to the upside has happened with the markets being closed. Very low volume. you know, I've just seen it happen too often, right? You get these insane breakouts to the upside while the markets are closed, and the entire move retraces itself when the markets open. So be careful out there. Please don't FOMO into trades, right? I do acknowledge that there's a lot of altcoins also breaking out. When I look at ETH here, for example, when I look at Litecoin, when I look at XRP, on the smaller time frames, it looks like, oh, it's ready to go, right? It's broken out from major trends. It's now broken out from this little trend over here. Just be careful. Just be careful, legends, because at the moment, okay, just a little bit of structure analysis. The only 5-wave structure that I see here more locally on ETH, for example, is a 5-wave structure to the downside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see a 5-wave structure to the downside, and I do not see 5-wave structures to the upside just as yet. That's where I start getting very bullish. Okay, if you have 5 waves to the downside, and I cannot see 5 waves here to the upside just as yet, this is just a mess. Okay, no clear impulses. I get very nervous about these breakouts. Can you make money? Of course you can make money, right? You play the breakout, you take profits when you start hitting these pivots. That was a TP1 zone. You play the breakout, TP1. Definitely, you can still make money if you know where to take profit. Right. Oh, I'm late to the party. Jack, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for the shout out. Absolute pleasure, man. Absolute pleasure. Rudy, I've heard from other YouTube content makers that dislikes as well as likes do benefit the algorithm. Yeah, I'm not sure. Thanks for the input. Okay, so you guys can dislike. It's not nice to see that people are disliking the stream. I think for me, it will be nicer to know why you are disliking the stream. Okay, Dewald, I disliked your stream because X, Y, and Z. I don't agree with that and that and that and that. You know, then I have feedback and in order how to improve, and I also know why. You know, for me, the why is so important in everything in life. You know, the why is what separates the people with power and the people without. It's the why. Why are you entering the trade? Why are you in the job that you are doing right now? You know, why is a very important question to ask. Right. Thank you, Dewald. Love your work, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Legends, that is basically what I wanted to discuss here at the moment with everyone right now. I think the most important thing to pay attention to right now, legends, is that if you go here onto the 5-minute time frame, so regardless, stuff Elliott wave theory. Let's throw it out the window. Okay. I can tell you guys now from a structural perspective, when you see this, the grind here at the bottom and the explosion to the upside with high volume, you expect a grind at the top. Usually when you lose this little structure, it means that this impulse is correcting itself and it could form a higher low and continue. If price is going to lose the trend and start getting acceptance back inside the range, you increase the probabilities of coming to take this low and invalidating this bullish structure. Right, so pay attention over here. So what I told the Legends Pro community, how do you get into a short with the best risk management that you can get into the short? Right, it was this little local structure that we formed here to the upside. I said, Legends, because of this, I've seen this happen a million times. Because of this, and now I'm seeing this, you can play swing failures from the local tops. So I think price was over here when I did the Legends Pro community update. And you can see we SFP'd the high beautifully over there. And I said, Legends, for me to potentially jump into a short, okay, this is the best level to short. These little levels over here. Price dips above. It leaves wicks behind, but it closes below the level. You short, you put your stop above the high. If price moves in your favor, you can protect your position. Now you have a free trade. That's the best way to get into these trades. The structure is starting to show weakness. It's slowing down. Okay, now you get stopped out. So this is the one that I now got into because I did the update over here. And I said, Legends, if we SFP this little high, I'm jumping in a short, because I know that the structure is It looks like it wants to curl over. You have the grind at the bottom. You now have the grind here to the top. So this is the short where I jumped in, right over there. You fail to close candles above this high. You get weakness below. You enter with your stop above the high. When price moves in a downwards momentum, you protect your position, and now you are inside of a free trade. So again, if it does it again from this high, I will do the exact same thing, but I'm going to catch this bad boy here to the bottom. Okay, if it stops me out, I don't care. If it gets acceptance back below, I'm going to be there shorting. I'm going to be there putting my stop above the high, because the structure, okay, I think is coming to an end. Right. Cool, legends, that is basically what I wanted to discuss today. Remember to smash up that like button if you haven't done so already. Higher lows are the key for success, and take profits in time. Yes, definitely. Right, also a fair value gap. ETH pump. Right, yes, I did look at ETH over here. It did get a small little pump together with Bitcoin, but what concerns me about ETH, okay, is that this structure here to the downside counts beautifully. Some sort of diagonal, but it counts more like a 5-wave structure here to the downside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have overlap over here, so it becomes a contracting diagonal of some sort, but I cannot count impulses here to the upside. But now the same thing as with Bitcoin. Okay, you have a low, you have a grind here, you had the pump, you had the grind, but now it's coming down. So if it can hold the trend, not get acceptance back below, that becomes a buying opportunity for continuation to the upside. But this also looks incredibly like an A, B. Right, we'll see how this plays out, legends. Let's see how this plays out. I think it's going to be especially interesting once the markets open to see how the structure is going to unfold. Okay, cool, legends. I have gone through all the scenarios, the bullish case scenarios, the bearish case scenarios, the levels that you need to watch out for potential longs, the levels, if we do by some miracle continue here to the upside, pay attention to that $89,000 area, right? That's also where I have the weekly point of control, right? This little zone over here. And until the next one, have yourselves a fantastic holiday. If it is a public holiday in your country, I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers for now.